Okay, welcome. This is the Limbo Miniatures Kickstarter video range. I wanted to do a small video just to introduce you to the size of the miniatures, and we can compare them to other miniature ranges. So let's have a look. Right here in front of us we happen to have the Warhammer miniatures, or the Citadel miniatures range. We have an elf here and a wizard. These have been painted for the stock standard tabletop quality paint job. So you can see the size of them in comparison next to the Kingdom Death Monster minis. And these are the opening prologue survivors. You can see they're ever so slightly taller, but we're comparing a fully standing unit here versus a crouched unit, and so they would be ever so slightly higher again. Now in the background, if we pulled through one of these guys here, the guards, let's compare them by putting them side by side. I'm going to take out these guys here so we get a little bit more comparison here. She's a bit crouched, but let's see if we have a look-see there. And now we can really start to see the height range that we are comparing. This is the guards there. These are the 40mm sized miniatures here instead of the 28-32 miniature range before it. So you can see that all the miniatures here are a much larger scale. Everything is a little bit bigger. It does make it a bit easier to paint too, which it makes it a lot easier for a lot of people. Might find the smaller miniatures ever so harder to paint. The larger miniatures have got a little bit more detail to them that you get access to. So that really gives us a good scaling size to understand. And then of course, if I was to move them along, here we go, move these guys down, and let's bring in some of them you may know. I'm going to bring in now the butcher. So here's the butcher coming in here, and then we'll have the lion, and off to one side. I can't quite fit him in. I'll introduce him in a second. Actually, if I move them all over ever so slightly, then you can fit him in. Okay, so now we can see the height difference between some of the guard and the butcher and the lion, and the antelope here is just off to one side of the camera. I'll pull him in a second. But you can see that size difference is really comparing here what's going on. And then if we start bringing in one of the larger miniatures and comparing the size of them there, so it really sort of, well, he's so big he doesn't even fit behind the so let's bring this brutish guy forward so you can really see him, and you can see the height of this guy here. I think that brings home the bulk of the miniature sizes you are going to see. I just wanted to, before I get onto the next couple, I just wanted to double talk about how much painting you would need to do to really get these on the table. I mean, if we compare the standard grey that we get these days, and then if we just undercoat them with the black's not going to do much for you. But if you were to, for example, this is what I've done for a lot of mine, and I'll just bump these the other direction because of the height size. So what I've done here is I've just changed his colours. I've put here some cream skin underneath on his chest, and most of the miniatures painted from this direction here, and then I've just painted black in a downward direction here. Not painted, sorry, just spray painted in a downward direction here. There we go. And you can see that that creates a kind of a nice little effect on the model there. So I was happy to do that just so they look a little bit better than the plain grey on the table. And of course, for other kinds of minis, depending on your colour scale and the type and so forth, we have this big skeletal boss here, Malkrin, and it's not too hard to really take a model from that point onwards to the next point. Yes, we can see, of course, there's a lot more difference going on here. You can't quite see his face there. Let's give it a little bit more. there's a major difference between the two, of course. But honestly, I reckon just non-oil on top of my guy on the left is going to bring him up somewhere a lot closer here, and it's just a matter of filling in all the details and dry brushing in the bone colours. So, but by itself on the table, it's quite obvious who he is. Just give him a different colour and a coat, another style, and then now we start getting to the really big miniatures. This guy's not even going to fit on the camera, so I'm afraid that's just going to be the way it is. Let's edge him out into camera here. So what I've done in this particular guy, I've just given him a black coat. From the top down, I've sprayed very lightly with a cream. You can't quite see it so much. The base has got a little bit of cream going on down there. But what I have done is just purely dry brushed the white into this to pick out the details. It's one of the brilliant parts about this particular sets of minis is that you can just get a bit of detail just from a bit of dry brushing on the model. And then what you can do, and I'll show you this next, is by picking up the camera, you can just a simple coat of a single color really brings out some of that look and feel for the model. And so even though this is not a fantastic paint job, this is purely a bare bones minimum just to get this on the table looking quite nice, and the miniatures really do pop. So the reason I'm even telling you any of this at all is just as you see them on the table, I have not got this quality of paint job for my complete collection. I have not got anything like this guy here with what I've got. These are all the owner of the game, Vincent's miniature collection, his set, of course. So mine don't look like that. Mine are going to look like this. But I wanted to bring some of these to the table as I go, and so I wanted to not have everybody comment too much about the differences in paint jobs when you see them come out on the table. And finally, just before we finish up here, I'm just going to give you a little bit of a sneak peek of one of the models coming up. Unfortunately, I think that camera just can't focus. I'm going to have to get a different camera for future. So this is a little sneak peek of one of the barbarian girls. Oh man, that camera just cannot pick up that picture at all. Oh, there we go. Oh, it almost pops just now. So there we go. So hopefully that really helps you to understand the miniatures we'll be using in this range on the videos coming up. And yeah, I won't talk about the miniatures again. I'm talking purely about the rules. I just wanted this to be out there so you could have a nice understanding of them. So thanks for that.